So in class today, we had to go quickly through lessons 14 and 16. So I wanted to give you a little video to help you if you're stuck on your homework and you want a little refresher. So both chapters 14 and 16 talk about evaluating algebraic expressions. And all that means is if you have something, for example, like x times m times p, and you know that x equals 4, and m equals 5, and p equals 2. Simply evaluating this algebraic expression just means you're going to put 4 in for x, 5 in for m, 2 in for p, and then do whatever is done to each of the variables. So all the letters are called variables. In this one, x is multiplied by m is multiplied by p. So that becomes very easy. That becomes 4 times 5 times 2. 4 times 5 is 20, and 20 times 2 is 40. So to evaluate this algebraic expression, using these values for the variables, your answer would be 40. But they can get a little bit more complicated, and I want to show you something that you can do so that you still get the right answer. So let's say we have x minus y times negative a plus x, and we're going to tell you that x equals negative 2, and y equals 3, and a equals negative 4. When you get into expressions that are a little bit more complicated, there's something that you can do to keep your numbers straight. And here's what I want you to do. Wherever you see a variable, we are going to make sure that down below we put in parentheses. So here is an x, that's a variable. We're going to put that parentheses around it, because when we put in negative 2 for x, we need to make sure that that negative sign stays with the 2, because x is negative 2. It's not just a 2. So now we're going to take down and put our minus sign here. And now we have another parentheses because we have another variable. In this case, y equals 3. So we're going to replace the y with the 3, keeping it in this parentheses. Now we have another variable which is already inside of parentheses. So I'm going to take and make those parentheses brackets so we don't get confused. Now I have minus a. So we need to put the minus sign first, and then a we're going to replace with parentheses. In this case, a is negative 4. So the negative 4 goes inside there. That's going to make sure that we protect this sign, that we carry it down here, and that the a keeps its negative sign together. Now we have a plus sign, and now we have x. X equals negative 2. So we're going to replace that x with parentheses and put the negative 2 inside of it. And then we need to close this bracket. So by transferring our variables and making sure that we put parentheses, we've now kept everything straight. So remembering our rule, PEMDAS, parentheses first, then exponents, then multiplication, then division, then addition, then subtraction. So we need to go in here inside these parentheses first to take care of that first. So we're going to look here. We have minus a negative 4. So that is the opposite of negative 4. So we're going to keep those parentheses. The opposite of negative 4 is 4 plus a negative 2. And then that is going to transfer down. We're going to keep this 3, and then we're going to keep this negative 2. Now, if we solve what's inside the parentheses, 4 plus a negative 2 is 2. And then we do have to do this first because this 3 is being multiplied by 4 plus 2. And PEMDAS tells us that we need to do this multiplication first before we can do this subtraction, because multiplication comes before subtraction. So we have 3 times 2, which is 6. So now we have negative 2 minus 6, which is equal to negative 8. So I'm going to do another one just to make sure that you can see how we transfer those parentheses. In this case, we're going to have a negative x times a multiplied by x minus a plus a. And we know that a equals negative 2 and x equals 4. So let's do this again. We're going to take this negative sign and rewrite it. Now we're going to put parentheses that stand for this x and another set of parentheses that stand for this a. X is being multiplied by a, so if we put them both in parentheses, we know that we're going to multiply them. This x is equal to 4, and a is equal to -2. So we went ahead and did that. Now because we have two variables already inside of parentheses, we're going to change these parentheses into brackets. Now this x we replace with parentheses and then put the 4 inside of it. We take this minus sign and put it right down here. We replace this a with a set of parentheses and put whatever a is inside of it. In this case, it's -2. The last thing that we do is put the plus sign right here. This a we replace with parentheses and put the -2 inside. Now we're ready to go. PEMDAS, again, tells us that we want to do what's inside of the parentheses first. So we're going to take care of this first. We have 4 minus a -2. Whenever you subtract a negative, it's the same as adding its positive. So 4 minus -2 becomes 6. And it's still being multiplied by -2 and still being multiplied by 4. And we still carry that negative sign down. And then we still have this plus a -2 at the end. Again, PEMDAS says we do multiplication first. So these are all multiplied together. 4 times -2 is -8 times 6 is -48. But now we have the opposite of -48. The opposite of -48 plus a -2. The opposite of -48 is 48 plus a -2 means we end up with 46. So that's how we solve algebraic expressions. That was lesson 14. Lesson 16 is still talking about algebraic equations, but they're even a little bit more complicated. But they won't be too complicated if you remember to replace the parentheses. So let's try this one. This one, we're going to say a times x, and we're going to put that in this fancy bracket because we have minus a multiplied by a minus x, and then that's all enclosed. We're going to say that a equals -2 and x equals -6. So we do have to remember again, here's an a, that's a variable, we replace it with parentheses. Here's an x, that's a variable, we replace it with parentheses. A equals -2 and x equals -6. So we transferred that to this. Now we're going to put in our big bracket. We're going to take this minus sign and put it down right away so that we don't lose it. Now we have an a, so we're going to put that in parentheses and replace or put in the -2. Now we're going to multiply this by a, which we make a parentheses for, and put in our -2. And we're going to subtract. That's what this minus sign comes into play. Here's the x, so we're going to put in our parentheses. X stands for -6, so we put that in there, and we close our bracket. Now we're ready to go. As long as you keep your parentheses straight, you'll be just fine. So we're going to do what's inside of parentheses first. We have, I forgot to put this one in. We have this one right here. We have to do this first, and then this part is going to be multiplied by this part. So let's take a look at this first. -2 minus a -6 is the same as -2 plus 6. So this equals 4. We're going to keep that in parentheses because this bracket next to this set of parentheses tells us that we're going to multiply these two things together. And because they're still enclosed in a parentheses, we're going to do that next. So we have a minus -2, which is the same as a +2. So that makes that 2 times 4. We're going to keep this enclosed. And now we have these two multiplied together. -2 times -6 is a +12. And 12 is going to be multiplied by whatever is in here, which is 8. So we have 12 times 8, which is 96. So when you solve for algebraic expressions, just remember to replace the variable with a set of parentheses and then put the right value inside. Good luck!